You ever get this feeling like history class kind of skipped over the best parts? Like we get the textbook version, but not like the real story.
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
Christopher Columbus.
Oh, okay.
We're going deep, way past sailing the ocean blue.
Right. Because everyone knows that much now.
Exactly. And honestly, the reality is way more interesting.
I bet it is.
Oh, it is. And our source material does something really cool.
Okay, what's that?
Gives us excerpts.
Okay.
Straight from his world, from his journey.
Wow. Direct excerpt.
Yeah, so we're getting past centuries of built-up, interpretation.
The legend, the myth of Columbus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, mission 1 today, before we even get to the ships and the sailing and all that,
Right.
Who was this guy?
Yeah, who was he really?
And, even just reading about his early life, this source hints at a serious go-getter personality.
Really? Like even as a young man?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. What was he like?
Okay, so picture this. Young Columbus, totally obsessed with maps and navigation.
So not just like a casual interest, he was really into it.
Oh, way beyond casual.
Wow.
This was like an all-consuming passion.
Driven by something.
Oh, yeah. And this is where the ambition comes in.
Okay, well, I'm intrigued. What was he so ambitious about?
So think about it. Back then, the Earth's size, still up for debate. Nobody knew for sure.
Right, a lot of unknowns.
But Columbus,
Yeah.
he was convinced. A westward route to the east. Totally doable, he thought.
Wow. That takes guts, believing in something that big when nobody else does.
Talk about betting on yourself, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So was it just about proving everybody wrong?
That's a good question.
Or was there something more driving him, you think?
Well, the source paints this picture of a man. He wasn't just driven by one thing.
Oh.
It was a combo. Faith, fame, and fortune.
Ah, the trifecta.
Right.
But those were pretty powerful motivators back then, weren't they?
Especially in the 15th century. We're talking spices, gold, that direct trade route to the east.
Right. High stakes.
High stakes. And Columbus, he saw this as his chance, not just to explore, but to level up,
To make his mark on the world.
Exactly. Gain status, wealth, the whole 9 yards.
So this drive, this ambition, it's what eventually leads him to the courts of kings and queens, right?
Oh, yeah, because he needs their funding.
Of course, those voyages weren't cheap.
Not at all. But somehow he convinced them.
He must have been quite the salesman.
Right. What was it about him,
Well, the sources describe him as charismatic, definitely, but also, incredibly stubborn.
Stubborn how?
He was so sure of his vision that he kind of, downplayed the risks. Big time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Promises of riches, glory, all that.
Yeah.
Anything to get people on board, literally.
And I mean, let's be real. Those voyages,
Yeah.
anything but smooth sailing.
Understatement.
Yeah.
Can you imagine setting off across this vast, uncharted ocean?
With what, the stars to guide you?
Basically, yeah. And some very, very rudimentary instruments.
That's next level bravery.
Bordering on recklessness, maybe?
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges they faced? I have to imagine there were a lot.
Oh, so many. The source goes into detail about these harrowing conditions. Storms, almost destroying the ships, food running low, disease spreading.
Oh my gosh.
And that was all before they even saw land.
Wow. And they kept going.
They did. But it wasn't easy. There were even mutinies on board.
Really?
Sailors terrified of the unknown, desperate to turn back. It really puts things into perspective,
It does. It makes you realize how monumental these voyages really were and how much they endured.
Exactly. They persisted. But here's the thing. And the source really highlights this.
Yeah.
Reaching the Americas, that wasn't even the main goal.
It wasn't. So what was Columbus actually after? And how did that end up shaping his actions?
Okay, so remember, Columbus, he was convinced he'd reach the Indies, right?
East.
Yeah, so he's looking for that new trade route, of course, but also gold, resources, ways to expand European power.
Ah, so it wasn't just about exploration for him. It was about, like you were saying before, elevating his status and Europe's.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that ambition, it led to some very, very dark chapters.
This is where the conversation gets complicated. The source, it doesn't shy away from the darker consequences of Columbus's arrival.
No, it doesn't.
It talks about that.
It does.
Because we can't ignore that part of the story.
Absolutely not.
So what does it say?
Okay, so on one hand, you have this unprecedented exchange of goods and ideas between continents, right?
Like the Columbian Exchange.
Exactly. But on the other hand, this was also the start of colonization, exploitation of resources and people. and the tragic decimation of indigenous populations.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
Because you have these incredible discoveries, these advancements, but they came at a heartbreaking cost.
And that brings us to, I think, the heart of the Columbus debate today. How do we reconcile the explorer with the colonizer?
It's a tough question. How do we remember him, knowing both the positive and the devastating impacts he had?
That's exactly it.
Well, what I appreciate is that our source material here, it doesn't try to give us easy answers.
It doesn't.
No, instead it encourages us to, sit with the complexity of it all, understand the historical context, the different ambitions and motivations at play, and the consequences, both good and bad, that followed.
It reminds me of something I heard recently. History isn't a simple hero's journey.
It so often isn't.
No, it's messy, it's complicated.
It is.
And I think Columbus's story really underscores that.
It does. So where does this leave us? Centuries later, what can we take away from all of this? After this deep dive into Columbus's life and legacy?
For me, it's a reminder to look beyond the surface.
Yes, absolutely.
To understand history, you've got to grapple with the nuances, the contradictions, even the uncomfortable parts.
It's about getting the full picture, even if it's not always pretty.
Exactly. And I think Columbus's story, it's this powerful illustration of how progress and exploration, they can come at a very, very heavy cost.
That's a powerful thought to end on.
It is, and we've only scratched the surface here today.
Really?
If you want to uncover more, and I highly recommend you do, dive into Eingefügter text yourself.
I think I will, actually. I'm really curious to learn more now.
It's fascinating stuff. It might challenge some assumptions, make you rethink things, but it will definitely give you a whole new perspective on Columbus and history itself.
I'm into that. Thanks for opening my eyes to all this.
Anytime. That's what these deep dives are all about.
Yeah.
Smash that like button.
Please subscribe.
Exactly. We're going to see what makes those effective or not so much.
Thanks for tuning in to History Pod channel. We hope you enjoyed this dive into history. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from the past. Your support helps us bring history to life every day. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode. What lesser-known historical figures do you think deserve more attention? Get people talking in the comments.
Ooh, I see what you mean. It's not just liking and subscribing, but actually engaging with the topic.
Exactly.
Until next time, stay curious, everyone.